One seemingly ordinary morning, after a long day of farming and selling at the market, Linda had no idea her entire life was about to change. From the strange waves of exhaustion to the trembling moment she held a pregnancy test showing 2 red lines, it was as if time stood still in a breathless pause. And then seeing that very first ultrasound image, Linda knew she was welcoming a tiny sacred miracle. This isn't just a story about pregnancy. It's a journey of love, overwhelming happiness, and the beginning of a new family. Don't forget to subscribe to follow Linda and Quang on their path to parenthood, where every moment is filled with emotion, sweetness, and life-changing memories that will stay in their hearts forever. When Linda returned to the familiar wooden house, her body felt unusually heavy. Her legs were weak, her head throbbed, and just as she touched the doorframe, a sudden wave of nausea hit her. She grabbed the frame to keep her balance as cold sweat broke out across her forehead. Quang rushed over in panic, firing off worried questions. Linda gently waved him off, forcing a small smile and saying it was probably just exhaustion. But even after lying down, the dizziness wouldn't let go. Her chest felt tight. Her head spun. A creeping sense of unease began to rise inside her. Something wasn't right. Her eyes drifted almost unconsciously to her stomach. A thought flashed through her mind. She quickly counted the days. Oh God, it was over 2 weeks late. Her heart started pounding wildly. All the recent signs, fatigue, loss of appetite, strange changes suddenly connected. She sat there in silence, hands clasped and trembling. A small but certain voice inside whispered, "No, this time is different." Without saying a word to Quang, Linda hurried to change clothes, slipped her wallet into her pocket, and stepped out the door. The short walk to the pharmacy felt endless. With every step, a question echoed in her mind. What if I really am pregnant? What if there's a tiny life growing inside me? Her heart raced. Her hands were ice cold, even though the sun was warm. Back home, Linda stood still, staring at the small box in her hand. Excitement, anxiety, and anticipation swirled in her chest. Taking a deep breath, she quietly pushed open the bathroom door and closed the world outside. The small room felt unnervingly silent. The rustle of leaves outside the window, the distant chirping of birds only made the moment feel even more sacred. Her hands shook as she tore open the package, each careful movement like part of some inevitable ritual. She followed the instructions, set the test on the counter. Her heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. Time stretched unbearably. Linda's eyes locked on the tiny white strip. A rush of thoughts flashed through her mind. What if it's just a false alarm? And then it happened. One pink line appeared, followed by a second clear and undeniable. Linda froze her eyes wide. 2 lines. No doubt about it. Without even wiping the warm tears still on her cheeks, Linda burst out of the bathroom, her heart pounding like it might explode. "Quang, Quang!" She called, her voice trembling with excitement. Quang looked up, his brow tightening with worry. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Linda shook her head, a radiant smile breaking through the tears. She stopped in front of him, breathing hard, her heart racing. I'm not sick," she said softly, her voice shaking with emotion. I'm pregnant." For a moment, the whole garden seemed to freeze. Quang stood there, stunned eyes wide as they dropped to the test in her hand. When the meaning of her words finally sank in, his eyes lit up as if he'd just witnessed a miracle. Are you serious?" He stammered barely above a whisper. Linda nodded, tears welling again and glistening in the sunlight. Quang suddenly laughed, a bright, overflowing laugh of pure shock and happiness. He rushed forward, wrapped her in his arms, lifted her off the ground, and spun her around in the sunlit garden. We're going to have a baby," he whispered in her ear, his voice trembling with joy. Under the clear blue sky, surrounded by the rich scent of freshly turned soil, they held each other tight. All the exhaustion, the markets, the long days in the fields disappeared, leaving only the pounding of two hearts and the faint, steady rhythm of a tiny heartbeat inside Linda, signaling the beautiful new chapter that had just begun. That afternoon, Quang couldn't wait any longer. He insisted on taking Linda to the town hospital to make sure everything was confirmed. Along the winding dirt road, the breeze carried the scent of wildflowers as their hands stayed tightly clasped. Linda rested her head on Quang's shoulder, a new and unfamiliar sense of peace washing over her, the quiet joy of a mother-to-be. When they arrived, Quang quickly ran around to open the car door and helped Linda out his movements, extra careful, as if the slightest touch might break her like delicate glass. Linda let out a soft laugh, shaking off the tension. "Honey, I'm pregnant, not made of crystal." Her simple words made them both laugh, the sound light and clear, a small way to remind each other that they were stepping into happiness, not hardship. Finally, the moment came. In a small, bright examination room, Linda lay back on the bed, her eyes trembling slightly. The doctor smiled reassuringly and gently moved the ultrasound probe across her belly. The room fell silent except for the faint blue glow flickering on the screen. Linda held her breath, eyes locked on the dark space before her. Quang stood beside her, gripping her hand tightly. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead despite the cool air. In his deep dark eyes were excitement, anticipation, and a fragile fear. What if nothing shows up? Then, a faint shape appeared, a tiny dot barely there resting in the darkness. The doctor nodded, pointing to the screen with a warm smile. "This is your baby." Time seemed to stop. Tears welled in Linda's eyes as her hand flew to her mouth. Quang stared in disbelief. A real little life was right there, tiny, fragile, yet so undeniably real. And then, like a miracle, the sound of a heartbeat filled the room. Quick, steady, echoing through the speakers. The doctor turned to them, still smiling. "The pregnancy is about 8 weeks along. Congratulations to you both." Linda broke down in happy tears, her whole body trembling with relief and joy. Quang bent down, squeezing her hand as his voice caught in his throat. "That's our baby." Linda looked up at him, her eyes shining with love and trust. She whispered, "We're really going to be parents." On the way home, Quang couldn't stop smiling. His whole face lit up as if the world had just handed him its most precious gift. In his mind, a vision took shape, a little child running across the farm, tiny footprints pressed into the damp soil, sweet laughter echoing under the trees. He could almost hear a small voice calling "Daddy, Daddy," and the thought filled his chest with indescribable happiness. Linda sat quietly beside him, one hand resting on her belly, a soft smile playing on her lips. She felt as though she were holding an entire world inside her, a tiny world that made every long, tiring day feel sweeter. As the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Linda and Quang sat together on the porch. The evening breeze carried the scent of fresh-cut grass and sun-warmed earth. They didn't speak much, just watched the sunset in silence. But in that quiet, their hearts beat in perfect sync. The world felt softer, warmer. They were no longer just husband and wife. From this moment on, they were a family. And that single thought made every long day in the fields, every change of season, feel lighter than ever. A tiny miracle had arrived, changing everything. And they both knew this beautiful journey was only just beginning.
Chúng ta cùng tiếp tục theo dõi câu chuyện đời cảm xúc của Linda, một cô gái mạnh mẽ rất thoát khỏi người chồng độc ác. Cô ấy đã trở về an toàn và được mẹ Quang chăm sóc tận tình tại bệnh viện. Dù biết rằng Quang, người bạn trai luôn bên cạnh Linda, đã bỏ rơi công việc để quay về bên cô, nhưng một điều kỳ lạ là suốt mấy ngày qua, anh vẫn chưa gặp Linda. Điều này khiến chúng ta không khỏi thắc mắc, liệu Quang có gặp chuyện gì không ổn? Có phải anh đã bị bắt cóc hay gặp phải một lý do nào đó mà đến giờ vẫn chưa thể quay lại? Khi mẹ Quang rời đi, căn nhà trở nên yên tĩnh, chỉ còn lại Linda với những suy nghĩ trong đầu. Đứng một mình, Linda không ngừng lo lắng. Cô tự hỏi, anh ấy đâu rồi? Tại sao Quang vẫn chưa về? Anh ấy có ổn không? Hay đang gặp phải một chuyện gì? Nỗi lo sợ dần trong lòng cô. Linda không thể ngừng nghĩ đến việc liệu Quang có biết rằng cô đã thoát khỏi người chồng cũ, liệu không có biết rằng mình đã bị hãm hại trong một kế hoạch tồi tệ không. Cô cảm thấy bất an và không thể hiểu nổi vì sao Quang vẫn chưa xuất hiện bên cạnh cô. Cô không thể làm gì ngoài việc lo lắng và chờ đợi, hy vọng rằng Quang sẽ sớm xuất hiện, bình an trở về và giải đáp tất cả những câu hỏi đang làm cô băn khoăn.